we're coming to you, Miracle, because of what we saw take place in your home state.
Oh, God.
In Atlanta, where we saw this, Atlanta approving the funds to build Cop City, right? Despite the fact that it was, all this opposition to it, so much so that, and it was this whole piece where they weren't letting people in, even though there were seats inside because they were against this Cop City funding. All these police officers showed up.
Cop City, bitch.
Right.
Cop City, bitch.
You already,
Cop City, bitch. Cop City, bitch.
We already lost.
No.
Tort.
We already lost Tort, right? And that's, the more we learn about that, the more it looks like a police execution, right? Like the police, shot them down. We just saw the police identify like the bail fund. The bail fund for protesters and just arrest them, and then there was a conversation with cops basically saying like why they arrested them. They did, they just wanted them out of the picture. And then we found out, Miracle, that the 30 million, it was actually like triple the amount. It went from 30 million for Cop City, now it's 90 million. And yet still in a quote unquote black city, with a quote-unquote black mayor, a city that upholds Martin Luther King and John Lewis, that they approved, it says by 11-4. That's not even close.
It is not close. And not to endorse, Brother West, but this Cop City has shown that Democrats will enact their own type of fascism when they're trying to push their own ways and their own policies. Not only did they try to ban water for people getting into city council, just like Republicans tried to ban water for people sitting in line to vote. Not only did they try to prevent people accessing democracy, just like Republicans have prevented people from accessing democracy by putting up all of these requirements for people to sign in and talk to people. They have also tried to lie and said people caring about Cop City are not from Atlanta. They've tried to push this false narrative. And so they really adopted the outside agitator narrative that Republicans have always used for Black Lives Matter protesters and organizers, and it has dismissed the legitimate concerns about Cop City. Cop City is an ecological disaster. It is a training site that's going to train police officers how to stifle rights, how to prevent good trouble in the heart of Atlanta, where John Lewis fought so hard for people to organize and galvanize. Atlanta is now going to become the home where you actually are going to be able to learn how to stop repression, how to assault people, how to incarcerate people. We've watched as terrorism labels have been used against organizers. We've watched as lawyers and access to First Amendment has really been trifled upon. And it's heartbreaking that it is a black mayor in a black city, where it's going to be black people who are going to be bearing the brunt of this disaster and its violence. And there's no silver awning for this, right? There is no requirement that these officers actually adopt this training. There's no requirement that this training doesn't kill people. There's no requirement that this training is less lethal. There's no requirement that this training is de-escalation. This is a bunch of people, some who are, by the way, are not even from Georgia, basically saying we're tired of all these homeless folks outside of our windows, and we want to train police officers how to kill and remove them.
And from what I understand, Miracle, Atlanta specifically has like the largest wealth gap, of any major city in the United States. So much so that they say like it's like clearly the largest. And so again, here we go with like, what makes communities safe? We know it's not the presence of police, because the city that has the most police per capita is Chicago. And Chicago is, really the poster child that most people use for violent cities. So if the presence of police meant safety, Chicago would be the safest city, but it's not, right? So what makes communities safe? It's resources, right? It's having access to money and good homes and good jobs, right? And resources, things for the children to do. And so here again, we take 90 million and we don't try to use it to uplift the poorest communities, which would actually make them safer, but we're going to fund already well-funded police and military. It's not like the police are operating some deficit. They already are super well-funded, super supported, super backed. Same with the military. So we're going to give them even more money. And again, like you said, these are black people that are leading this charge. Did you all have any comments around Cop City?
I think that what happens is they hear these talking points about, the community needs more resources, how cops aren't equipped to handle mental health and stuff like that. So then they think in their minds, oh, so you mean to tell me the cops need more resources? Right, cool. We're going to put more money into the police. Oh, so if the police can't handle mental health resources, that means they need more money to do so. And I feel like, it makes me distrust Democrats because they're hearing these arguments and they're making us feel like they're hearing it with compassion.
Yes.
And then they go to these police boards like, hey, the community's saying we need more resources. Here you go. It's like, do you have a solution to these problems?
Right. You run on this compassion, and then it's like when you win, because I remember one of the first things that the mayor, what's this man's name?
Andre Dickens.
Andre Dickens did.
Who was only there because there was a rumor that the other opponent was going to shut down the strip clubs.
Right, true. Wow.
And I have to remind people of this because people really picked Andre as this progressive Democrat who was going to fight for the people, who was going to defund the police, who was going to do criminal justice reform, this is what they got instead.
Because he actually, one of the first things he did was overturned the closing of a jail. He actually created the legislation that closed the jail, became mayor, and was let's fill the jail up with poor people. And so it is like you said, it becomes, it's duplicitous. It's you're telling us one thing, and then you get in office, and then all of a sudden you do all of this other stuff. You had any comment, Fru?
I mean, I was listening to all you say such great things about this, and to me, it looks like Americans have replaced their love for the military with police.
Yeah, 100%.
And they've looked at the military as kind of like this afterthought of everything. No longer concerned with freedom over shores or democracy, whatever lie they tell people. It's no longer that. It's this obsession with this, militarized terroristic force that they can see every single day. You don't see soldiers every day.
True.
You might see, the weekend warriors, your reserves or whatever, but they're not in their uniforms walking the street every day. You do, however, see police officers every day. Yeah. And you equate this with something that's become idolized, iconicized, much in the way of the 80 propaganda films of Commando and Predator and Rambo, cop-a-ganda. So this cop-a-ganda now has permeated into daily American life. Right. And you see them as these larger than life characters. And a lot of people get enamored with this, your Proud Boys, your Oath Keepers, your Kyle Rittenhouses, your average homegrown vigilantes that look at this and be
Daniel Perry.
Right. And who was military. And what happens when most of these people come out the military? They go into law enforcement. Right. And they look into this as they romanticize I can do this. Yeah. Well, I can be they champion the violence. Yeah. And they champion they champion kind of that murder porn aspect of it.
Absolutely.
And just like what Mark Wahlberg said very infamously in The Departed, do you really want to be a cop or you just want to slam a nigga's head through the window?
Yeah. And mind you, brother, it's this is in the backdrop because it's also this. It's propaganda, but it's also sold to us as the only thing. It's the only solution to safety, right?
Yeah.
It's an uptick in violence, and it's the only thing we can think of.
And it's so unimaginative.
Yeah, for safety, it's we need more police, and the police got to have bigger guns and better guns and more guns. And remember, this is in the backdrop of we just saw an 11-year-old boy who was shot in the chest, after they called 911. For the police to come. And according to this 11-year-old boy who, spoke so powerfully in the interview, he did what the police said. Come out with your hands up. He came out with his hands up and was still shot by the police, right? We see it's another case unfolding right now in Florida of a black mother of 4 who was shot and killed by her neighbor, right? AJ Owen, she was 35. And again, she shot and killed. Another black person shot through the door, apparently, because this is unfolding now, right? We don't know. We haven't heard the name of the person that shot her, but we know the person's white. We know it's a white woman. We know she wasn't arrested. We know her name hasn't been given. Similarly to like the man who shot Ralph Yarrow wasn't arrested when he initially like folks had to go and protest in front of the house. And so it is weird to see like a black city, like we see all these examples of policing gone wrong over and over and over and over again. And then we say, hey, I know it's going to make, because you could probably call Atlanta the blackest city in America.
Right.
It used to be D.C. It ain't D.C. It's Atlanta. We're going to give you all this $90 million military cop facility. And like, that's going to keep, it doesn't even make logical sense. Am I tripping?